Guys, welcome back to Let's Be Frank, the home of men's mental health. You join your hosts, Jack Coward and Ryan Smith, and today we are honoured to have Steve Warwick with us. Steve's life has been a series of battles. Diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at 15, struggling with anorexia, turning into bulimia, and facing addiction and self harm. This is an episode you do not want to miss. As always, let's jump to Mr. Ryan Smith. How are you on this hot evening, I shall say, because it is rather warm this side. How are you, mate?
Do you know what? In my box under the stairs, I'm not actually that hot. I'm quite cozy. So no, this is good, man. And I'm particularly looking forward to this episode because this man and his food that he puts out on Instagram is unreal. I mean, I've had some decent quality food like at the French Alps and stuff like that with some brilliant chefs, but this man's food is another level. So yeah, I'm not just about the food, but I'm quite looking forward to this episode. So, Steve, welcome to the show, buddy.
What an introduction that was! Bloody hell! Should we just stop it there?
Is it
I think
there?
I think that's
Right,
good enough.
guys, thanks for listening
If
to Let's Be Frank.
if
We'll
that's
catch you
what
next
you
week.
want to do, buddy, but
Wow. Yeah. Hi. How you doing?
We are well, mate. How are you?
we're good, man. We're good. So yeah. Where do we start? Let's go back to the beginning. I think, Jack. What do you reckon? So, as early as you want to go, Steve. Let's head there.
Floor is yours.
Okay. So, well, if we start, yeah, if we start at that 15-year-old mark when I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, that was, I mean, I didn't know what to do with that. It was like kind of here's your ticket, here's your label, and off you go. Good luck with your GCSEs. um, so it was I didn't know what it was. I had to kind of research what it was, and then you start reading these lists of symptoms or characteristics and whatnot. You're like, oh yeah, that explains a few things. But it was I think they gave me like 20 milligrams of citalopram, and that was that. Which I took for maybe 6 months and then just dumped in the bin.
I love some citalopram.
um, so yeah, I mean, I suppose I was yeah. The magic drug.
Mate. Yeah, gotta love that, mate.
Do you know what though? So that's I'm gonna say it's something that's quite still poignant today. I mean, I was on started out on sertraline a few years ago, and I had to up my dosage. But there's no sort of, well, this is what it's for. This is why we think you need it. It's just take this, and that's it. So so it's quite scary to think that with sort of a mental illness, they're quite I can't see it changing too much, but they've done that with you. That's quite scary. So I do apologise about that. It's just something that
No,
popped
no.
into my head. I think it's quite scary. So with that, then you dropped it after like sort of 6 months later. What was the reasoning for dropping it?
There was no improvement. There was no. I suppose where I was quite high functioning. I suppose I didn't notice a massive improvement, and my mood wasn't. Sorry, my mood wasn't always down or always flat. It kind of come and went, and you're also a teenager, so you're told that these things are normal as well. So taking these tablets, to me, again, I was a teenager in denial, rebelling against the world. So no, I'm not going to take these tablets anymore. I don't need them. Uh, but I don't think that would have, if I'd have continued taking them. I don't think that the next 10 years would have pitted out any differently.
What what led up
Um,
to the
That's fair.
diagnosis? What was the years before that kind of led up to that moment of them going, listen, you've got personality, borderline personality disorder.
well, there was a lot of kind of big events that went on in my childhood, and there was a few things there that a kid shouldn't have seen or gone through. Uh, and if that's not dealt with, then it's gonna come out at some point. Uh, So that I would say was probably what kind of put my mind into that space. But obviously, then you get diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and it's the way I see it is like we're all kind of standing on a ledge, and if you fall off that ledge, you can fall into a mental illness. With borderline personality disorder, your ledge is smaller, so you've got more chance of tipping over into something else, whether it's severe depression or eating disorders, and as I went down, or into a personality
I was
disorder.
gonna say, like, you've kind of. I was gonna ask, like, once you had that diagnosis, how did you kind of find the balance in that? But as you said, the platform for that is rather small, and you did take yourself into the bulimia side. Was that the tipping point for you then? Finding out, was that when did it get worse at that point when they said to you, right, here's your diagnosis, or did it give you some like clarity? Like, how did that affect your mindset at that time?
It made me, in a way, it was almost nice. Although I didn't know what it was and I didn't understand it, it was something. Someone had called it something, so I could say, "This is why I feel this way," or "These are why I act. This is why I act like certain ways because I've got this thing." So it was nice to have some kind of parcel. uh, but then with the with the eating disorder side of things, I remember before I was diagnosed when I was 15. When I was 14, I remember sitting in German class, and I think this was the
Banging
time when
tune,
Peter
banging
Andre was
tune.
big with Mysterious Girl, and all the girls, oh, amazing, and all the girls are looking at pictures of Peter Andre with his like 6,000 pack abs, and they were saying, "Wow, look at that six pack! Look at that six pack!" And I didn't know what one was. I could hear them talking, but I didn't have a clue what one was. But I knew from that second on that I needed one, whatever it was. And and then that started off religious exercising. When I found out that six pack was just toned abs, religious exercising, and then I tried to do things with my diet, but back then I knew nothing about nutrition, so it was like I could only eat chicken and broccoli, and it was all these kind of series of bad behaviors started to build up, and I suppose that kind of just developed into what you would consider orthorexia. And then when I was in my late teens, I'd gone to uni. I'd had a couple of years at uni, but I fell out because I just broke down. But at uni, I put on a bit of weight because beer was so cheap and pizzas were so cheap. Um, and after that, because I saw that I was no longer like an invincible teenager that could eat anything, I was scared of food, so I stopped eating. I would avoid food at all costs. If someone mentioned a meal, I was doing something else, and I would starve myself. And that feeling of being hungry and being starving, I enjoyed because it meant that I was not at risk of putting weight on, which is strange to say, but that that feeling was satisfying to me, I suppose. Um, the bulimia, or the way that kind of led towards the bulimic characteristics, was I was sat in outside a Subway sandwich, and I was with a girlfriend at the time, and I was trying to build up the confidence and the courage to go in and get a 6-inch low fat sarnie, yeah. Uh, and I did, and eventually I got in there and I ordered it, and we went back, we had it, but I then just had this random thought: I need to get this out of me, because the guilt started playing. It was too heavy, and that's when I first started throwing up. That kind of opened that door. So it's like, oh, I don't always have to starve myself, because sometimes I can eat. I just need to then get it out of me quickly.
During that period at the beginning where you kind of had this, let's call it a comfort blanket feeling, probably the easiest way to describe it in my eyes, where you didn't, you kind of stopped yourself eating and you felt good about it, but kind of knew it wasn't right at the same time. What was there anyone around you that questioned you, that said, "Hang on a minute, he never comes out for meals. He's not doing like." Did your family clock onto it? Did friends clock onto it, or were you it well hidden within yourself?
No, no one really, no one really clocked on or questioned it. Because I think anyone that suffers from any mental illness becomes fantastic at lying about it and hiding that, and the social mask, and so maybe I was just really convincing. But no, there was never anyone that said, "Steve, you've not eaten for 3 days. What's going on?"
It is surprising, but it's also not, because there is a mask that we all wear when it comes to mental health, and I think it's more so in men because of who we are, who we're meant to be, this persona. Again, I've got to have these, this six pack, and I've got to look a certain way, and I've never I've been there in my mind where when I'm like, I need to look a certain way because I feel disgusted, but I've never been to your point. So I'm not going to sit here and go, I know how you feel, because I generally do not. Um, but at the same time, did at any point during this period you think to yourself, something's not right? When was that turning point for you?
The turning point for me to start getting better.
To to, to seek help? Yeah.
I think it all came. It was in my early 20s, but I'd woken up from a night out on the lash, um, received those horrible text messages that you get saying, what was the matter with you last night? What were you up to? Blah 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 blah. And in that moment, I was sat in I was sat in my flat. I had no sofa. My TV was broken. There was empty, cheap wine bottles everywhere. The place was just a wreck. And I just kind of told myself that I deserve more than this. I deserve more than what I'm giving myself. And a light bulb just came on. And so on that day, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped drugs, and I've never looked back. That's over 10 years ago now.
Fantastic. So I just want to say, well done for that, and it's a massive, massive sort of realization, these moments in time. But a little bit before that, you said nobody, Jack asked a question that nobody had noticed. Now, I don't want to get political with this, or I don't want to point fingers or what, but do you think if this was on the other foot, so if this was a female not eating for a few days or long periods of time, self-harming, because this is what it is really, it's self-harming. Do you think somebody would have picked it up, or do you think somebody would have asked questions?
Yeah, potentially. I think I think if a young girl stops eating for days on end, it can be a lot more noticeable.
Yeah.
And society's kind of opinion is that eating disorders are a feminine thing, or something that affects women and not men. I mean, when I went to the doctor once in my late teens or early 20s, and I said, I'm bulimic, and he said, I'll be the judge of that. And that just, if I was a girl in that situation, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have come back with that.
No, it would have been a completely different conversation.
But this is what I was just trying to highlight. It would have been, it's you look at that sort of general sort of thing. If I'm not feeling right for a couple of days, I'm quite fortunate that my wife's quite good with spotting things and stuff. I'm quite good at me, and Jack was not feeling great a few weeks back, and I picked up on that, and I was able to message him. But that whole, I've been in situations where people have gone like, oh, there's nothing wrong. It's just an off day, where I've recognised symptoms in girls, women, and whatnot, and everybody's like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And it's quite hard, as men, it's quite hard to, and this is one of the reasons why I believe that men don't talk, because again, it's this whole sort of diversity stuff. I think it actually puts more pressure on men to not be able, to own up to these things, and I think it takes voices like yours with platforms like you've got to do what you're doing. So I take my hat off to you, and it's hard to see. You can see it on your face that it's like, well, yeah, it
I
is
think as
tough.
well though, like what you
I
say
just,
about the
yeah,
doctor and
this
what the
this this
doctor's
episode
saying,
is
like,
just
I'll be the judge of that. That instantly is him saying that is exactly the same as someone going, as a bloke going, I'm really suffering my mental health, and someone going, just man up. It's exactly the same in my eyes, exactly the same way of speaking, that derogative use of language. Because for someone, obviously from that you've been able to create who you are and you've learned from it. But for some people, that could have been a real turning point into a lot darker point at life.
Well, it was for me. I mean, that was for someone in that kind of vulnerable state, and I look back on that version of me, and it upsets me that young man was completely alone. And this is why I'm doing this, because I don't want that to be happening. But so I kind of put myself out in front of the doctor. I just wanted help. I needed someone to wrap me up and make me better. And when that didn't happen, I just kind of fell off a cliff. And that's when the drinking got more frequent. That's when the drugs got more frequent, and that's when uh, the self harm was probably at its worst. And then that led to me walking up to the local garage, buying a cheap bottle of red wine, 3 packs of paracetamol, and then walking to the cemetery. It's quite grim. Walking to the cemetery behind there in the snow and necking the wine with the tablets, just hoping that I would just fall asleep and not wake up. So that did kind of teeter off to my almost demise.
It's one of them, and it's hard to come back with a
um
question, because I'm a very visual person when it comes to thinking and that. So when you're saying, describing that, I can physically see that in my mind's edge, you walking through the garage and walking to that. So I'm trying to put that into kind of a context, because it's powerful. Because again, that person has made you feel such a way that, in internally, or without knowing, or knowing, that it's got you to a point where your mind's gone, there is no help. What is the point of all of this? What is kind of life? And it's from that one word. It's
Well, that's it, and there is
yeah.
there is an immense fear.
How did that night plan out?
If
Yeah,
you
we've
fear,
we've
hugely.
used that
And
term so
fear,
I
much.
yeah,
Mm,
because you wake up, you're only safe when you're asleep, aren't you? You wake up and then the day starts
yeah,
again, and you've got to get through that day.
yeah,
And then you're like, well, if this is going to be my everyday
what's
for
the
the
point?
rest of my
What is the
life, then
point?
I don't want it.
no, and a lot of people as well. Yeah, a lot of people, when they look at this, they go, it's just the coward's way out, and it's not. You want this pain, to stop. This thing that you're feeling every day, you want it to stop. You don't want it to be, that every day in your head it's going round, and it's like somebody's got things in your head, and it's just clapping them together constantly, and it's just like I just want that to
Yeah.
stop. And it's not so much I want to kill
I
myself. I
want to
want I
feel
want to,
normal.
but I just need
That
this pain to go
What is
away, and
normal though? I
just
still,
I've got so much
I
going from there.
still, but
Well,
I
I don't
still
know.
have them days now. I say to my partner, like, because I've got
Exactly,
something, I'm
exactly,
like,
and
I just
and
want to feel normal. But what is normal anymore? Like, again, if, as you say, if you wake up and you're basically living the same day in, day out, knowing that, what is the point? you're event and there's no help there when you're asking for it, then you are going to get to the point where you find yourself with the paracetamol, with Miratrain or whatever it may be. And as Ryan says, it's not a coward's way out. I think that's most one of the fucking bravest things anyone can really do. Because if anyone says it's a coward way out, they have never been in that position, in that mindset, about to do it. Because fuck me, it's one of the bravest. Okay, it's not as
No.
brave as saving a princess in a tower on a shoot a Disney film, but it is braver than yourself to have that ability to go like, what is the point? If I take myself out of this, then everyone around me is going to feel better. That's what we do it for, because we feel a burden on everyone else.
Was that point where you've got that bottle of red wine, then paracetamol in your hand? Was that the lowest you've ever been?
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, that was. The word sad gets used a lot, and then I don't think that the word is actually understood. But that's the only way I can truly describe it. Is I felt so sad that there was
It's
nothing.
numbness.
It's just
There's no feeling. There's
no.
It's just emptiness, isn't it? And to face that, it's like looking out into space, isn't it? And thinking there's nothing else out there. It's if you imagine being on a boat at night and it's just calm waters, and all you hear is that sort of silence, nothing else around you, and there's nobody there with you. It's like empty.
Yeah.
This is not an upbeat episode, is this?
This is the open, frank conversation.
It's
this is what this is, and I want to know, how did you pull yourself from that cemetery that night? How did you come out the other side of that?
So after that, I went to hospital. They put me on the drip, I believe, for a couple of days and observed me, and then they put me for observations in the mental department, the mental ward, for 72 hours. And I felt really, I was begging them when I was in there to keep me in, to section me and to keep me in, because I felt safe there. And that was the blanket that I needed. But obviously they haven't got the resources to do that. So they confirmed my diagnosis, borderline personality disorder, anorexia, bulimia. They confirmed all of that. But then said, but you've got to go. So my mum and dad picked me up, and they put me under their arm, and they're not professionals. They don't know what to do, and I wasn't a brilliant person back then, because I was angry at the world and I was angry at myself, and anyone that wanted to try and help me, I told to piss off. It was.
Why was that?
It's tough, isn't it? It really is tough, because
why was that? Why was you so angry with people trying to help you? Because there's a lot of people that go through this stage, and I think if get an insight of that may help them understand their reasoning why as well.
Shame and embarrassment. My dad had to come round to my flat, and I was just absolutely mortified that he saw where I was or how I was living, because the flat was nice. It had a sofa, it had a working TV and whatnot, but I sold these things. At the time I was unemployed, so I just sold anything I could. So that was obviously embarrassing for him to come around and have to see that, and it's just embarrassing to tell people whose opinion that matters, that you've been living this way, doing this to yourself, and that you really have no purpose in life, and that your existence is relatively pointless. It's hard to say that to someone who loves you and who you love. It's easy.
Looking back now, and I see you pondering these thoughts and stuff. Does it still hurt? Do you still look back and think, my life was low there? Does it still play on your mind at times?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, since I can talk quite openly about this. I can talk openly about anything in my
Yeah.
past. I'm not ashamed of it now. But it's since doing these style podcasts where I kind of recap and I look back at myself as this young guy who was really struggling, and I well up because that's not me.
It's welcome on this
No,
show, mate.
but you kind of look back and you look back at these points. You look back at these points in time, and this is for me. I look back at these points in time, and I'm like, that hurt. I'm open about it now, and the reason I'm open about it now is, like you say, is to stop others from going through this. But still, this day and age, and this is why we're doing this, for that exact reason. There are people out there that still don't accept mental health because they don't, that it doesn't exist. There are people out there that think, that blokes need to have a bit of stoicism about them. They need to suck it up. And the way the society is now, they kind of think we need to lift everybody up, but by lifting everybody up, there are certain people that have been lifted too high, and we need to stop lifting them up. So, in essence, because they're being left behind. And I think this goes for still young men at university, because we had somebody reach out to us not long back, at university. He says, I don't know where to turn to. I can't voice my opinion at school because at university, because I'm a man, and they're all about pushing other things. We had it not long back where we were told, to do certain things, we need to diversify the panel. So for me, that's what that's actually saying. Men, your voices are. We understand that these problems are there, but for your voices to be heard, you need to tick certain boxes. There's so much. And it's why we're very much trying to push what we're doing forward. So yeah, it's just tough, isn't it? Why is this happening?
And where else can you go and see 3 grown men happily get upset emotionally? Because we're not allowed to, are we? We're men. We're not allowed to sit and get upset and cry and have emotions. It's all fucking bollocks, mate. Absolute bollocks. We're allowed to. We're allowed to emphasize how we feel.
I was lucky with my dad. I don't know if my dad was ahead of his time or what, but he always raised me saying that a real man can show his emotions. Like, my parents told me they love me every day, and they still do. So that kind of, I've never been scared of being vulnerable in front of people that I'm open with, but I still wouldn't do it in front of the lads at school. I still wouldn't do it in public.
No, and I think that's still true today. You look at rugby clubs, you look at football clubs. You on the terraces, you're chanting away and whatnot, and it's that bravado. But I think that is the ideal time for. Do you know what? I'm not feeling great today, but this is why. And I think if we do need to change that culture, and it is for things like you're doing and through your food education and stuff, and it's shows like this that will ultimately, trying to just change the way men and their sort of surroundings, so that then people directly involved with them just change the way that they ask certain questions. Are you all right? Really, feel free to talk to me, at any point. And I think it's just little things like that. It doesn't take much, understanding the word man up, having, to be a man, it's okay to cry, but it's also what you need to do if you're going to cry, but understand the feelings around why you're crying and be able to talk about them. And I think, you express that through your food, don't you? For me, I want to get onto your food. Is this, you express what you're Does it come through your food?
I guess it does. Yeah. Look, I started Healthy Done Sexy when I was when I'd stopped all of the drinking, the drugs, and smoking, and I'd got myself a job, and I started cooking myself nice meals and starting to build a better relationship with food. And but I was still really, really strict, really, really restrictive because that was my safe place. And obviously, I've developed that over the years. But at the time, it was very, very strict. But I was still making nice food, so I wanted to then kind of put that forward and say, look, healthy food can be. And I was thinking of a word, and bump sexy came to mind. Uh,
But seeing your face, right, going from talking about that to talking about food and what you do with it, the difference is night and day. But what I want to ask is that, do you think from going from, the alcohol, not eating, and being that there, is your food and your relationship with what you do with food now a replacement for that?
Potentially. I mean, we could argue that we've all got addictions, and we call them habits. So some are good and some are not so good. Uh,
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's. I'm just wondering, have you replaced with that sort of? Because when you lose, when somebody smokes cigarettes, and whether they smoke sort of 12 months or 20 years, 40 years, what nicotine does for the brain receptors and stuff like the nicotine receptors and stuff like that. And this is why people find it hard, because when they do take that cigarette, the nicotine goes into the brain, it affects the receptors, it creates more of these nicotine receptors. And at one point it was used for
yeah,
depression, it was used for mental health, and there's still that sort of false narrative around it. I call it an aha moment. So somebody takes that cigarette and for 5 minutes, oh, that feels better, but then it falls off quite quickly and they need another one. And then when they do finally stop smoking, there's a big black void
mm,
there. It's the same as drink, it's the same as, it's these addictives, these addictions that they've got. They're filling this void with something, and some people take up running, some people take up knitting, whatever but they fill something with. And that's why I ask, is that food filling that
but
void?
I think you're onto something there. So quite with borderline personality disorder, the main or one of the main kind of characteristics is all or nothing. So there is no middle ground. So where I started to make myself better was that all or nothing mentality. So where it was working against me, I made it work for me. So I was drawing on the positives to it, and that then jumped into food, and it was like, right, I'm going to learn everything I can do about food. I'm going to know all the facts, all the science, so that I can start making this journey to be better. So yeah, I suppose that was a replacement tool, just a healthier one.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, no,
I'm
no.
not saying it wasn't healthier, but no, 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 no. But it's quite surprising, where a lot of people they do have, as humans, we seek pleasures.
Oh yeah,
We naturally seek pleasures, to make us feel good. And sometimes what makes us feel good isn't necessarily what's right for us. So it's like you say, you have an unhealthy. You went back to, when you was a kid, you heard that sort of Peter Andre sort of a six pack. You become obsessed with trying to get that body. That didn't quite work, and it was just, it was a way of self harm and things like that. I remember, I was really not there now, but it was like a safety razor again down my arm, because it kind of, I wanted, just a bit of a release type thing, and it had become a little bit addictive. I went through a phase of picking skin and things
yeah.
like that. It wasn't so much that it was just something that just, do you know what? It just feels good to be out. It's not there to hurt me, but it just feels good to be out. So yeah, this is what I look at when I see your food. It's brilliant, but it's just got me thinking that there is more to it, and kind of. Do you find it as an escape still?
Oh, absolutely, 100% cooking, creating the recipes in my mind, and like I taste flavors in my mind, and I kind of pick colors that I can use from vegetables and fruits to make those flavors to make it also look pretty on the plate. And then I enjoy going to the shops to buy them, and it's the whole package. It's just yeah, it's an addiction, I suppose, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? It isn't, and but people are like, well, how can you be addicted to like that? And it goes back to that smoking. You look at the nicotine receptors and the way they latch on. It's them good feeling chemicals. We always chase something that the body makes feel good, and it's and it's why people get addicted to scroll. They won't admit it, but they get addicted to scrolling through the phone because they're seeing things that naturally they're seeing other people doing well, and we want to chase that, but the more we look at it, the more it makes us feel good, and it traps us
Yeah.
into things, and but just taking a step back from it, do you ever feel like, do you know what, I'm going to take a break?
No, because I enjoy eating every day, so I'm always making content.
How have you found that
Love
relationship
it, God, Jack.
with how have you found that with that relationship with food? Obviously, from your past, a lot of people will be like, how can you go from being bulimic to now doing these incredible food and love it, and it's a passion, it's a hobby? Like, so how did you turn it around from that moment of like, I am physically, I eat and I want to throw it back up, to now you're, look at these amazing things I'm creating? What was that process? That
uh,
that must have took a long time.
yeah, it's taken years and years, but I still struggle. I still struggle sometimes with the monster in the head. Um, but I suppose every year that goes by, and during that year, you've read lots of stuff, you've experienced lots of things, and you've tried lots of things, and none of them have been detrimental to your health. So you build up those kind of positive relations with trying new things and pushing your boundaries and keeping going and going and going, and you just get better and better and better at that. But I still, today we went out for lunch. Last Monday was my birthday, so they bought a birthday cake today. And the second I found out that there was going to be a birthday cake involved, I went, I kind of shrunk inside. I started to panic a little bit. Uh, and then I started thinking of what I could say to get out of it. How do I, I don't want to eat this. So what kind of muse could I create? Uh, but in the end, I was quite honest, and I was quite good actually. I did have a mouthful of this cake, um, but that was it, and I said no, I don't want it anymore. But
But I
there
think
is
there's a
there
lot
is
of
elements still
people,
there.
yeah, there is, and there's a lot of people I think still out there that think when it comes to individuals having mental health, having certain aspects of the life change, that all of us, overnight it just stops, and it's not true. It sticks
Yeah,
with us for the rest of our lives, and every day is a challenge. You have your good days, you have
yeah,
your bad days. That is in mental health in a nutshell. And you turning your moment around from thinking, fuck, I don't want to go to that, and all these negative thoughts coming back to you, to going, no, I'm actually going to go and do it and have that mouthful. For for me, listening, I would say that's a massive win. That's a big win. And a lot of people will be like,
huge.
well, surely that's just a normal day, a normal thing. No, it's not. It really isn't. For some people struggle getting up in the morning and brushing their teeth. For them, that's a massive win, because they've put themselves in that much of a deep, deep, dark hole. But there's so many people that I still
Yeah,
talk to now that don't believe me when I say that, and they're like, nah, you're just chatting shit. I'm like, no, I'm being genuine and honest from experience. That still happens. And how are you finding it now? With Have you had any moments? Obviously, you spoke briefly on that one where your mindset kind of changed. Have you had any moments where you've kind of almost put yourself back in that position where you was like, right, I'm gonna stop eating again. I'm gonna go back to my old ways.
No, no. There's been a few wobbles. There's been a few not quite temper tantrums, but getting that way where I was that scared that I kind of wanted to throw my dummies out the pram. But I've never looked back. I'm never going to make myself sick again. I'm never going to abuse laxatives again. I'm never going back there.
Do you ever blame anybody else for your past?
No. I mean, look, there's things that happen to anyone, I guess, who suffers from a mental illness. That there's going to be something that's gone on. But I don't think blaming anyone would make me feel better. It wouldn't make my situation better. So,
And that's it. People say you become a product of your environment, and I think that's wrong. You are going to get bad experiences, but I think with work and consistency, you can improve these situations. And I think I think with what you do, I think that's a kind of, you've had a crap few years in your life, but you've kind of flipped that and you've worked at it, and that's what it does. So it is, you've got to be prepared to put the effort in. And I want to ask, with your kind of following on Instagram, and I know you've got, what was it, about 33,500 followers on Instagram. Do you find that is another thing to fill the void in, people looking at your food and thinking, do you like that sort of attention?
no, I don't. No, and this latest craze where the content creator has to appear in the reels, not a fan. I want to go back to the days where I just took a picture of a bloody plate and put it up there. No, that was.
Socials are mental, mate. Like we struggle with socials, don't we? We are not good with socials. We're no good at this whole reel and let's
Yeah.
do the latest trend dance to bullshit, mate. Not interested in that. That's just not who we are. And it must be hard though, because again, you have.
I could actually imagine him now spinning his plates on, trying to put food on. I think there's something there for you.
Big following. Did you ever at any point just go, fuck, I was going to pack it in. I don't want to do the latest trend. Or is there any point where you're like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to have to do this because of them? Or have you always kept it like, no, I'm doing this for me?
Yeah, there's been several times where I wanted to throw the towel in because it's a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work. When you're not creating or editing or doing, talking sexy about food and doing voiceovers, you're engaging, and it's a lot. It's like a second full-time job. But the one thing that actually keeps me on Instagram is the amazing people that I've met through there. I really have made some great friends online, and so if I keep on there, I'll probably make more great friends. And I enjoy doing what I'm doing, so I just keep doing it.
So it's addictive. It's addictive, and you have got the voice for it. You have got the voice for it because, first of all, right.
It's one of them, isn't it?
This
is not just food. This is M&S food.
Not listening to this episode because I will not hear the end of it. But secondly, could you imagine me and Ryan doing a voiceover for one of your videos? I think that just would set it to the point. You know what I mean?
100%.
I mean, oh, the red shiny pepper. No, don't work, mate. It doesn't work. We're gonna have to do. There's the next collab we're gonna have to do. Can you imagine Ryan on it? I think it'd be brilliant. I think it'd be absolutely. Ryan, give us a taster. Talk succulent to us and sexy.
What? This is not just food. This is M&S food.
No,
don't work.
It's a viral reel.
Healthy done sexy.
There you
Healthy
go.
done sexy.
That's it.
You just sound like a pervert there, don't you?
Exactly. I could actually put, since I've left Tamworth 12 years ago, I could, a bit more of a twang about me, a bit more brummy. You could imagine it. Healthy, unsexy. just doesn't work, does it?
Right mentality. You got to have the right thing for it. And Steve, you do. You have it, mate, and fair play to you.
Oh,
This has
this has
been
been a ride.
a roller coaster, I would say, of
Oh,
an episode. And I think to finish on, I'd like to get your kind of final thoughts, Steve, on anyone out there that feels in the position that you was at all them years ago. What would you say to them, or what would you say to yourself if you could go back?
To myself, bloody hell. I think what I did end up saying to myself when I woke up that morning and I just said, you deserve more than this. I think the second you realise that the situation that you happen to be in, that you've kind of fallen into, is not where you should be, where you deserve to be, then you can start climbing out of it. And you start climbing out of it by talking to people. And like you really do need to talk to people, especially the people around you that love you, because they will never, ever, ever turn their back on you because they love you.
it's massive, isn't it? And it goes to show, in time it does get better. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be in a month. It might, it might take, going through 3 or 4 counsellors until you find the right counsellor that works for you. You're not going to walk into the doctors and they go, "Oh, I know what's wrong with you." You proof that they'll give you some medication, then they won't educate you around it. And I think, again, this is something that we've touched on so many times. In schools, I think there's a lack of education. They talk about sex education. They talk, and I think, that I think there's a big sort of lack of understanding around food itself. You steer clear of a lot of the likes of the KFCs, the McDonald's. This is what it does for you. It has a negative long-term effect on you. It can have a massive effect on your mental health just by eating the chippy every day. Going for that pizza every day. Talking about finances in school. General mental health in school, and I think it needs to start at a much younger age, and to build it up. I think what you've discussed tonight is kind of pointing in that, and especially in the likes of universities and stuff as well. I think there's a massive gap still to this day. But yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you for sharing some of the stuff that you've shared. It's been really inspirational and powerful. I think we got off a little bit slow for me. It wasn't, with some of the stuff that you were sharing, I was finding it hard to swallow. But I think, with us being open and honest, it's like you say, that conversation just opened up, and I think that's shows you what conversation can do. But where can people find what you do, Steve?
on Instagram.
What's the we're gonna do it, and we're gonna make a reel out of this. I do apologise, but what's your Instagram page called?
Healthy.done.sexy.
That's Ryan's
Right,
personal.
that's for Yaz, mate. All right. That's like it's one for later.
Steve,
Right, anyway.
Thank you so much, mate, for coming on and sharing your story and having that open
Thanks for
conversation,
having me.
mate. Because again, so many people struggle with it still. Hopefully, over time, people could sit and have this conversation that we're having right now, and it will make such a difference on so many people's lives, mate. And honestly, yeah, thank you, mate. I really appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing.
No, thank you guys, because that dream to have people being able to talk openly will come because of people like you doing this kind of thing.
You're gonna make me cry again.
He's gone. He's
No,
gone.
oh man, no, it's and it's tough. It's tough. We've recorded. We recorded from October through till sort of April straight last year, and we just wanted to normalise conversation, and we do get people asking what's in this for us, and my response is always the same, and I think it's why you do your food. You just want people to
Yeah,
feel better.
100%. Just want to help people.
Apparently, you're not allowed to do that this day and age.
You know, we don't take anything from this. You know, it's just for more, especially men, but everybody, just to be able to talk and open up. And I think, yeah, that's it. You know, so Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Check out his socials. You know, we will put links into the description. But tonight, folks, I'm now going to end the show. It's not Food Done Sexy, unfortunately, but it is the closing of the Let's Be Frank podcast. So just remember, use your voice.